Hey, what's happening? How are you doing today? Thank you so much for being here. Welcome to the year 2026. Happy New Year to you. And if you have some New Year's resolutions, perhaps maybe one of them is to get out and about with your cool car. So today we're talking about what it's like going to your local Cars and Coffee, what to expect, what to do, how to approach the crowd. What do you say to people when you're out there? You don't even have a cool car. You'll find out all that and more on this episode. Let's go. Okay, welcome back, everybody. I got Courage back here, stopping by the podcast studio. How you doing today, buddy?
I'm doing good, man. Coming off the holidays, getting into the weekend, and doing good. Always glad to be here.
Yeah, man. Speaking of cars and your cool car, how's the old Hot Rod N doing these days?
Are we allowed to say hot rod with a 2-liter turbo?
I don't know, man. I don't know. I mean, people. What's funny is that you ever seen a Tesla with like a spoiler and a fake exhaust tip or fake, like hood vents or like that?
Full on body kits. Yeah, yes, I've seen it.
Yeah, well, I'm sure it happens. People do that kind of stuff. And the 2-liter's fine. It's fast. It's fun. It's fast. I mean, It does sound like a 2-liter. It doesn't sound like a V8 or like that. But I don't think you'd want it to, really.
It's got a little growl to it for sure.
Yeah, little burbles. I like the little burbles it makes. The little, like the little, crackle tune, I guess, as it is.
Yeah, no, but it's doing good. I did replace my front lip, actually part of my front lip over the weekend, or I guess it was yesterday. I replaced the front lip just because when I first got it, I wasn't really used to where the ground clearance was going to be. And so I just destroyed one side of it. It was like the bottom part was all shaved off and everything. So there's a company that makes a really, really affordable front lift. It actually still looks really good. And so they do it in pieces. You have the front part that goes over the front, but then you have the two edges that are separate pieces. And so over the weekend, I just changed those two out and looks perfect now. And now since I know angles and everything, I haven't had any situations in the last couple of days. So it's been good.
The joys of owning a lowered car, or I guess lower car, I should say.
I guess just because I'm on stock springs, and so I'm not like lower ride height wise, but yeah, just by dropping it a bit with the the lower approach angle with the lip is even enough to change the way that you drive the car. So that's the things we do for the cars we love, I guess.
Right. I remember I used to scrape things over with my Z a lot. I hated driving over bumps or certain angles. Scrape, bang, bang. I was like, oh my gosh, that broke something. That broke something. You hear it, and it's like, oh my gosh. So
side note completely though, I know you sent me a video this week about your Z, and man, dude, I listened to that a few times because that thing sounded awesome.
Oh, thanks, man. Yeah,
it took me back to my Z days, but man, I know it hurts not having it, but that car sounded like it was a really cool deal for sure.
It was definitely hot. The thing was about that car, it wasn't too over the top loud because I saw one Z roll by. And it must have had a Tomei exhaust or no exhaust or something like that. Yeah. It was a 370. Anything was loud as you can believe. You can hear anything like 4 blocks away kind of loud, And mine, there wasn't quite like that. It was never quite like that. It was very subtle, very mild. It sounded like it was supposed to sound like that. Because some of these modifications, some of these exhaust people do, you can tell it's an aftermarket exhaust just by how loud it is, the way it is. But mine it sounded like, as you heard it, you're thinking like, this is probably, and of course I didn't get over the top with tips too. The tips in the back were pretty normal looking. And I was like, as you heard it, it sounded like it probably should sound this way.
Like the car, it was fitting to the car's look overall.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. If the car, certain cars, you hear them, they turn on, you kind of expect them to sound a certain way, and it kind of reminds me of a joke I thought about. If somebody have a Tesla, could like crank like a V8 soundtrack playing in their car next to somebody in traffic just to kind of throw the guy.
There's a video floating around like on YouTube or whatever where there's a guy, like there's a bunch of cars leaving Cars and Coffees, and they're like, they're all driving out there making noise, and like this guy like drives by with his buddy in the passenger seat and like a Model 3, and they're cranking like a V12 sound like they're just on the stereo, and they drive out, and it's so entertaining because everybody's just like vibing with it and laughing. But yeah, that's, you can do that if you want. Like, you're not making a lot of noise when you're leaving.
System, if you have the right sound system, it'll sound just real. Because some sound systems, like, may not sound that real sounding. Because like having the sound of a V8 or V12 in front of you sounds different than like coming through a stereo or whatever.
Yeah.
So speaking of seeing cool cars like in person, you've been going to all the rounds for the Cars and Coffees down here in San Diego. And have you been to all of them or just the one?
No, so I've been around to a good amount because they have weekly ones and then they have some that are monthly. Just depends on the particular folks that are hosting it. But I've been through and around a handful of the ones kind of within like San Diego area, and some of them here in like the Inland Empire we call it, but up here a little bit further north. So been making the rounds for sure.
Are they always in the morning, right? Or are they different times of the day?
For the most part, they are like, usually you're getting coffee in the morning. So a lot of times they are in the mornings. They do I know there's one that, they sort of call it San Diego Cars and Coffee, but it's hosted by a particular detail shop over in the Miramar area. And they've started to actually do more of these like sort of sunset type vibe, Cars and Coffees. They still call it that, but they do it in the evening time, like the last few hours of the day from like 5 to 7, where you still had like a little bit of daylight. And so that's really, when I was getting back into kind of going to these, because there was a good point where I didn't really go to much, in the way of like car events or anything. And, you hear that and you kind of wonder like, what is it? And, really, there's no like defined term, really. It's, I know we were talking about it before, but it's really sort of this, I don't want to say impromptu because they're scheduled. Like we know when they are, but they're really, they're kind of just whatever you bring, whatever you are interested in, you bring it out to these events. And, they're usually free. A lot of times if you're charging to be at a car event, then it's a car show. So,
car shows are different than Cars and Coffee?
Yes, like I would say there's a different definition. A lot of times when people are marketing or promoting a car show, it's because like there's usually a fee involved, or it's a sponsored event by like some company. And again, that to me is totally different from a Cars and Coffee, where it's literally just like we have a location, we have a time we're going to meet, but whatever you bring, whoever comes. Like we're not saving spots for anybody. Whoever's there is there, and they're a part of this kind of event. And that's what I feel like a Cars and Coffee really is versus a car show.
Now, is there like vendors selling stuff too, or is it just people showing off their rides?
Some of them. So one of the most popular ones that, I tend to go to, and some of the times where you see some of the craziest things, is over in Rancho Santa Fe, over here in San Diego. That happens every week, every Saturday. And I do a little, not shameless plug, but I do a little thing on my Instagram where like every week and it's never really the top 5. It's just like the ones that are kind of on my radar for that week. But I'll shout out like, the events that are going on that week. And Rancho Santa Fe is usually always on there because they're always there. But, you have people like, you have people selling Hot Wheels, and some people now have started to come out and sell T-shirts, or, some of the real estate companies that are there in Rancho Santa Fe in that little town, they'll open up specifically on Saturday mornings and have some of their like magazines out and, kind of promote some of their showings. So there's an opportunity for people with, businesses or little ventures to come out and, kind of sell products or promote their products there. But a lot of times even those, like, they're not paying to be there. And, anybody there, can shop or, look at their stuff with their own discretion. So, there are vendors and things like that, but that's not like a requirement per se, I guess you can say.
Right. Now, these things happen usually on the weekends, I'm assuming, mostly mornings, like you're saying, Sunday morning, Saturday morning, probably. Now, there is a specific time, like frame these things happen at. And when they do like an event at, say, a parking lot of some business, say Walmart parking lot, for example, do they have to let Walmart know they're doing it, or how's that work?
Yeah. So any of the events with like any type of longevity have a relationship with the location that they are hosting them in. So, if you ever see kind of one-offs that, or that are just popping up and, they hosting it in a Walmart parking lot, for example, if they haven't really cultivated that relationship with whoever owns the property, they don't tend to last very long. One really big example of this, and actually I just happened to go to this one today, which I haven't been in a little while because it's a bit of a trek to get there. But South OC Cars and Coffee is actually hosted at the San Clemente Outlet Mall obviously in San Clemente. And they've had this relationship with the Outlet Mall for I don't know how many years now. It's like a symbiotic relationship where, I mean, even on their banners within like the Outlet Mall on their movie theater, they're promoting OC Cars and Coffee every weekend. So they have a cohesive relationship with that facility to host every single Saturday. And they have people that work gates to let people in, making sure people aren't getting crazy, revving, burnouts, things like that. They
so
really have
than a sideshow.
They want to make sure that this doesn't become a sideshow or what do you call it, a takeover.
Yeah. So
the old takeover.
So
culture.
Cars and Coffee typically is more of your casual, like, I mean, I'm gonna classify like older person. Maybe it's like an older person crowd that goes to these things. I would think then like the younger, like sideshow, takeover type people.
Yeah, I'd say that's maybe a little bit debatable because you get maybe say the more mature younger folks that are just know that like they're not into maybe just doing that kind of stuff, and they want to just be able to be in an environment where I get to show off my car that I'm proud of, and amongst other people that are showing off their cars they're proud of, and we're not looking to just draw all this attention to us doing these crazy things. Like you get a little bit of that, but you do obviously get a little bit more of the other side where I won't put them out there, but you get a lot of the Corvette, the Corvette memes of like the typical Corvette owner.
Yeah, the jean shorts and like the the socks pulled up, and you get the jean shorts and the he says you got the what's that whole thing about the Corvette? It's like the one of one meme. What's that about?
Yeah, where like, where your particular Corvette is one of one, say because of like maybe a certain interior color paired with like a certain exterior color.
Oh, I try to figure where they figure that out. I don't know how they get that,
There's some other things where like you really, at the end of the day, like, some people do really have like, say a special Corvette because of like a combination of things, but it's usually something that's not really that, I guess, that important to point out. It's somebody next to you with like, say, another Z06, for example. Like it's essentially the same car. You just have maybe a different color combo with your interior, exterior, maybe like a factory installed option that was slightly different, but you essentially have the same car. And when you start to get a little bit more of put yourself on a pedestal because you have this special car, I think that's where that starts to come from, where that little bit of the meme culture comes from around that.
Dude, I love me some good memes. Let me tell you. Yeah. I love me some memes, man. Speaking of the number thing the thing you're saying is that my truck, since it's special edition, has a special edition Roush plate on the on top of the like where the I guess the center console is and the dash area. Yeah, it's got a Roush serial number and a serial plate, like the year, the date, the whatever the model. I don't know. It's like some little I think that Shelby's do this too, where they have like its own like badge, serial number or whatever for the vehicle.
It doesn't say like specifically who it was built by or anything.
I don't think so. No, I don't think so. I think it says Roush Off Road. It's kind of starting to. I've cleaned it, so it's kind of starting to fade. Like paint's starting to come off the thing, but it's on the dash there. It's kind of a neat little like homage, I guess, the fact that like it's something that is not necessarily one of one, but it's one of whatever, how many they made of these, So, I mean, different than the regular F-150 where they made like, a million. So, but okay. So at the Cars and Coffee, you got the older guys come with their Corvettes. Do you got like, because I would go, but like, I don't have a cool car. Am I even accepted to even go to these things? Or you have to have a cool car to go? How does it work?
Man, Chris, I'm gonna expose you a little bit because I know I talked about this with you. I'm telling you, people bring everything. Like I imagine, I know that whenever this episode comes out, you'll probably have already made it to one of these. But people bring everything. I'm like, I'll give you one big example of something that just blew me away. And we can maybe flesh this out a little bit later, but it really doesn't have to be like, some people think cars and coffee, I gotta, unless I'm coming in like the latest Lamborghini, the latest Ferrari, or the coolest like classic muscle car, like is it even worth going? I was walking through OC Cars and Coffee this morning. I went with my little guy. And, we saw the craziest things. We saw McLaren Sennas, the new Revuelto Lamborghini, just the SLR McLarens, all kinds of stuff. We were walking towards sort of the outer edge of Cars and Coffee, and we came across, it had to be like early 90s or maybe late 80s, but it was a pristine Ford Escort GT, 5-speed manual. It was a 2-door, no, I think it was a 4-door, I believe. But you walk up and you like amongst all of these cars, you see this thing that looks totally different, just out of place. But when you went up to it, you realize like this thing was like it had some imperfections, just being an older car. But like seeing that parked next to a 911 GTS, like was what it was parked next to. You would think that this is like this is a little weird, like what's going on here? But people are proud of what they're proud of. And, the fact that somebody has preserved an Escort GT to that point where it still like brings some attention like that is, I think, what a true Cars and Coffee is about.
Nice.
And, people were into trucks. People would really appreciate the Roush truck out there. I know for sure. I know the guys out there in Escondido, like they did a whole truck day a little, probably a few months ago.
Yeah, I see some of these trucks though, dude. I've seen some of these. They've got the like 50-inch wheels, and they're lifted, jacked up in the air, and they've got like lights on the wheel well and lights everywhere, and they're like these big F-350s and all this craziness and stuff like that.
That's just some people's style. Like some people really are into that. Some people actually gravitate more to more of a subtle truck, but with some performance upgrades, and they know that like it has again that name, that Roush name, like there's a big crowd of people that are they want to know that their car or their truck or whatever is OEM. Like they have more of that sort of concourse mentality where, doing anything that's like aftermarket or not, in Roush's case, like, it's aftermarket, but it's like a partnership with the manufacturer.
Right.
So it's still considered like an OEM plus kind of scenario. That sort of thing is what they gravitate to. But, once you get into real like modifications by companies that weren't OE spec, they sort of turn away from that because they're not really into that. And so there's just a huge, kind of hodgepodge of people that, there's some people that really are into heavily modified things, but there are people that really are, into keeping, your car, your truck in as close to stock form as possible. And I think there'll be appreciation for people that, have things that are still in that realm of OEM plus, kind of situation as well.
Well, I think also for like the older stuff too, like that Escort you just said, something like that where it's hasn't been crazily over modified with like crazy, hood scoops and everything else and fake vents on the side and all that nonsense and stuff like that. So at the Cars and Coffee, so what do you do? He just goes there, parks, just hangs out in front of their car. What actually happens at these places?
I think that's another misconception, and I'm
they don't do that. They don't park their car and hang out.
They do park their car. That's the one big rule. I did a interesting video on this a while back, and I actually deleted it because it just didn't do very well. That's my shortcoming in life. But I did this video on like the one rule that you should follow when you go to a Cars and Coffee is that you have to reverse park your car or your truck.
Oh, I always do that anyways. But.
Like some people, it's just like their nature. They do that anyway. But you look a little weird when you just drive into a Cars and Coffee and you just park. Like you were just going to the grocery store or going to a doctor's appointment and, nose in.
Well, what the guys that do the car show parking where they take up 4 spots across the side?
Don't be that guy. Like that.
Do they exist at the Cars and Coffee?
Like today there was a guy that had he had one of those like SL Mercedes, the SL 55 or whatever. And I noticed when we came in that he had like taken up 2 spots and he parked at an angle, and a guy in a 911 saw it and he actually purposely parked next to him. And when we made our rounds and came back around, I noticed that he had actually straightened out a bit and like straightened his car now so that like people could actually park next to him. And so
is it that busy? Do these places get that busy where you have to like take every spot?
The OC one is like, again,
okay. And the parking lot's limited then, I guess. You can't have a lot of spaces.
It's a pretty big parking lot, but the zone the zone that they designate specifically for OC cars and coffee is okay. And you basically if you don't get there before or if you get there anytime after like 9:10, 9:15, you're probably going to just park on like the regular parking side. And, people come just to enjoy it as a show because it really is. Like,
that's what I would do. Yeah, I would go there just to enjoy it and check out the cars and meet new people and talk to people and have just like conversations. Just, if they're willing 100%. To talk to me. The thing I'm worried about is some of these guys are like, don't look at it, don't touch it. It's here. I'm wiping it down, but just move on. But are those guys there or they have more friendly people? I don't know.
It's a mix. Like you're gonna get some people that I saw a guy that was cleaning he had a like older Nova. He was cleaning his car like before he drove in. Yeah, it was older Chevy Nova, and he was cleaning it outside the Cars and Coffee before he drove in. He was I was driving in because there's a back way to get in, and he was parked off to the side cleaning it to then drive in and park and show the car at the Cars and Coffee. And so to each their own. I'm not judging anybody, but you're going to get a mixture. And I say it's a little less maybe at the smaller Cars and Coffee because OC Cars and Coffee considers themselves actually one of the biggest Cars and Coffees in the world that happen weekly. But other Cars and Coffees that go on around us in San Diego are, they're more closer knit. They're smaller. There's not as many cars that are showing up there. And there's a lot of the same faces and things like that too.
Well, that's good because I think that you wouldn't go back to a place if you were treated like crap. If everybody was rude to you and everybody was like jerks and whatever and stuff like that, I don't think you'd go back to a place like that or go back to an event. So if these same people are going back, but also that can backfire too because sometimes like you think go back to school when you have like
you get some clicks.
And, they don't want outsiders coming into their clique. Kind of a thing. Yeah. That's another thing that worries me about going to a Cars and Coffee, thinking that like, I'm an outsider coming in. I don't have a cool car. I'm just here as a looky-loo. But I want to meet people too. But I don't want it to be like, who's this guy? Who's this guy without a car coming here?
All you have to do, Chris, is tell him you got a podcast. And they will be all about it.
I say, it's Cool Cars with Chris. Perhaps you heard of it. Number rated podcast in the world.
Oh, I know you. Like,
like I might get a T-shirt, whatever. It says, I might be famous.
One thing on that though is that I've met some of the coolest folks at like these Cars and Coffees, and some of the coolest folks with the coolest stories around their particular car, their particular build. And I generally like I try to converse with a lot of people, and even if I see somebody, because back to your original question where it's like do you park, you stand next to your car, like I've never really been in that mentality. And again, maybe it's just that I don't have like this cool car that I'm like,
what are you talking about, dude? You got the freaking end. Come on now.
Yeah. Some people don't feel the same way, like, to be totally honest.
My one-of-one Corvette,
Yeah, that's, like, those guys. Versus that, like, I'm just showing up in my 4-door family car.
He's like, what's this? What did you pick this up from? Was it a rental car? What, do you got a rental car today?
Yeah, like, did you just drive the rental car over here? Like, so, again, some people think that way, and I'm, it doesn't upset me, but I've never been one to just kind of post up at the car and just wait for people to come and ask me. Like I park, like, even now, like with the mods, like I do open the hood of the car just to show people the intake and, some of the things like that. But I'm usually out. I'm going like, looking for somebody else, like looking for another cool car, again, meeting some different people. Just, if I do see somebody that's standing next to their car, like I'm usually the first person to ask them, oh, like, how long have you owned the car? Like, what have you had done to it? If I know like it's completely stock, I'd be like, oh, did you get it this way, or did you have to restore it and, do some different things to it to get it back to OE? And, I'm just one of those where I'm like genuinely curious about people's builds. And so, there you get a mixture of people, but I've just never been the one to be posted up and sort of wait for people to come to me. Like I've always been the one that kind of park the car, like, find a good parking spot, open the hood, let it sit. It's always cool maybe when you're coming to leave or coming to get something and somebody's there and you strike up a conversation. But, I try not to bank on that. I'm there to see what else is cool there.
Right. I'll probably be more like, conversations, you know. In fact, the original name of this podcast was gonna be Cars and Conversations originally. But then I thought that seems a little too, I don't know. I mean, generic. I thought, you know, like, but I switched over to cool cars with Chris, which is also kind of generic, but I don't know. I thought like, I don't know, I wanted the word cars in there somewhere and stuff like that. And I don't know, I just kind of landed on, I was kind of, you know, debating between both, but I would love to go to a Cars and Coffee and just go around and do it like reporter interview style and like ask everybody questions about their car. But I don't know how willing people are to talk about their stuff. I don't know how willing they are to like be on video or be recorded or anything like that. I don't know how willing people are to do that. But I look forward to going to one. That'd be fantastic, checking these things out. And I like it when sometimes, you know, they'll have like an event like downtown or like in the city streets. They'll have like the cars will all line up and park, that kind of stuff. I'm assuming it's kind of like that a little bit, where they have the streets to people park their cars in the street thing kind of a thing. Some towns do that.
I say a lot of times like those that are like sort of in a city center area or things like that are usually now more in that bucket of car show, because they've typically kind of at that point gotten a permit with the city, and like this is actually like an event that, you know, people are coming to, and like there's kind of rules around, you know, what they can do. Although I will say in your area, actually kind of La Mesa area, I think they do have sort of a weekly thing or like bi-weekly thing where they sort of just like within like a little town center, they'll do a little bit of a car. They call it a car show, but which contradicts exactly what I'm just saying. But they call it a car show, but essentially people just kind of roll up, and you know, it's a lot more kind of tailored towards like the classic muscle car kind of era.
Yeah, that's the ones
like
I've seen. Yes,
but,
the ones I've seen have been more of like lots of Mustangs, a lot of, you know. My absolutely favorite is the AC Cobra. Even the replicas, they're all replicas these days.
I was going to ask you, like, what's your favorite?
My favorite of all time is the AC Shelby Cobra, like the classic original. And I've seen a lot of them. Actually, got a ride in one of them once.
Wow,
and
nice.
They're all replicas. Even the one I rode are all replicas, you know, now. But even though, like, there's a company, Factory 5, I think it is. They send you a kit and you build it yourself, and you can buy them, I guess, too. But that's my absolute dream car. Even a replica, I'll take a replica all day because they are very well built. They've got modern suspension on those things, and they can put any engine you want in there. You want LS, you want to put Coyote V8, fine. You want to put whatever, even a classic with a carburetor, you can do that too. And I seen a lot of them out there, and I seen a lot of them. There's a company on social media I started following, and they like this big unveil. They unveil the Shelbys, the Cobras they have for sale or whatever, and they're just so beautiful. Like the paint jobs are beautiful, amazing.
Yeah. That's a good choice.
That's the car that I've always wanted since probably I was a kid. And I seen a few of them those are the ones I do see at the car shows, but I do see them at the places I've been to. So
it's one of the few cars that's like it's pretty popular. Like you're likely to see one at a lot of the places you go, but you still get excited every time you see one. Like it hasn't lost its luster to see one out in person, but it's not as though you don't really see them that often. Like, you know,
that's probably why I did like them a lot. I did see them quite often. I was like, you know, when you start seeing things a lot, you're like, I kind of like that. I kind of like that, you know, versus something you see once and then forget about it.
And then, which is, you know, that's what happens a lot of times is like, you know, you see it, you see it once in a blue moon and you get like really, really excited, but like it's not like
that Corvette 101.
Yeah.
with a weird trim on the floorboard. You're never going to see.
Yeah, which you're never seeing that again. There's probably a reason why.
The gas pedal's a slightly different shade of black. It's 101.
This one's got a stain in this one spot that I bought it from the factory this way. Like
101. Yeah, speaking of that, I got my truck fixed today. I had the windshield fixed. I had a chip in my windshield. I had 2 chips in windshield. Just noticed it. Made an appointment with Safety Light, what its company's called. And I made it in there, and I went in there today, and they did the resin. They put the resin in there, and they did the sealant and stuff like that. But
so they didn't have to replace your full windshield.
No, that's expensive. No, because I had to replace it on my other truck like twice already, and I remember paying for that. But this one here, no, I've had 2 chips. It's chipped like twice, and they came out. One time they came out to the house and they did it. They did the resin thing, and this time the guy did it in like 5 minutes or whatever. It's like really fast. Surprised how fast it was. Because the last guy took a while doing it, but. See, I filled it up, whatever, and all the stuff for you. Okay, great, whatever. And
did you actually have to take it somewhere? Or did they come to you?
Yeah. Okay. This time, I could have had them come to me, but I'm like, I probably have a showing happening tomorrow at the house anyway. So you know, so I'm like, why don't we just like leave and then just, if they're local. Oh, they're local, not that far from here. Okay, great. I'll go there.
You just get them.
I did that and stuff. So it's much cheaper than replacing the windshield, but still, you'll pay money for that stuff. So I can't wash the truck. I can't wash the truck.
Little public service announcement on that too is that some people think that they have protection against that with their insurances.
Oh no.
Which you have to specifically have like a glass break insurance policy, like along with your regular insurance to cover that. And I found that out a couple of years ago when I got a full crack on I was driving in Arizona, where they tell you like automatically, like if you drive like just a regular car, try not to drive behind big trucks, because it will happen where you just get a rock chip that just hits your windshield and cracks it.
Right.
The moment I'm like leaving from a work site out in Arizona, I get on the highway. And right as I'm getting ready to change lanes to go around this guy with this lifted truck, I hear like the just like on my hood first, and then the windshield. And as I'm driving, like 4-hour drive back home, like I just see the crack spread all the way down.
That's the worst. That's what I was afraid of doing. I saw the chip, and I'm like, oh, I hope this doesn't spread. If it starts spreading, it's game over. Yeah. And I think they tell you how big it has to spread before they can say we can't feel it with a sealant. It has to be like a few inches, maybe.
It's probably a few inches. Yeah. Like if it becomes noticeable, like if the spider effect starts to happen, like that's usually like a sign that you're going to have to replace it. Like it's usually if you just get a chip and it stays there, like you get a little, like, little line here and there off of the edge, you're usually fine. But like anything over an inch, I think is where they draw the line, which is crazy. That would almost irritate me more if like it was just about like 1.5 inches, 2 inches of of crack, but I have to replace the whole windshield for that. I would be frustrated.
I had to do it on my other truck, my other F-150, the one that had the engine replaced. I kid you not, it had the thing. I was going to Disneyland. We just bought the truck. We literally just bought the truck like the week before. Maybe not even that long. They just bought the thing brand new. And on the 5 freeway going up to like Anaheim or whatever, and there's like some rock chip thing flew in the fluid. It hit so hard. I thought the thing went through the windshield. It hit so hard. It impacted so hard. And it was a chip too. And I looked in the safety light and things like that. And eventually I just ended up paying to replace it. I don't know if I had insurance on that or not. I don't remember how that worked on that. But yeah, they changed it out. And the guy looked at the odometer. He's like, crap, you like have like no miles in this thing.
Yeah, he just bought this thing. Yeah.
And it went out. Yeah. So, and then it happened again on me, maybe, I don't know, 10 years after that. Not that long, maybe 5 years after that. It did the same thing. I went to the truck one day and full on made a T from the seal, went up from the middle up and T'd out to both sides. Cross. I'm like, oh man. So it's no fun, but they're in business for a reason. And I've never seen one like shatter though. Does it actually do that? Where if it gets really bad, does it just like fall apart, or does it hold in place?
No, you really have to be like in an accident or like have like something like a big rock like thrown at your car or something. I feel like for it to have that sort of spider effect and like potential. And it takes a lot even to actually get a windshield to fully like come into the car, like to deform fully and break its way into the interior. There's videos of people like just kind of stomping on like windshields, and the amount of force that it takes them to actually get it to fully break is pretty impressive actually, which, obviously you want that kind of safety when that's like that's your main defense between what's in front of you and what's, what's coming in the car. So when I saw that, I was reassured, like I feel a lot safer in this thing. But
I'm sure the cheapy windshields are probably not that safe. Because the guy asked me like, you want when I did the other truck, you want to do the real one or you want to do like the cheaper one and save a few bucks?
I've never actually, because I've always kind of thought that like they're all created equal to the extent
they might be.
That,
I think they
like,
are.
Yeah, like certain newer windshields have like integration to their like they have certain ways that they integrate to like their cruise control or like they like their defroster or like certain things where like you have to have that stuff like along with the install, but. I've always assumed that like glass is glass, like, windshield glass is windshield glass. Like I might be wrong, but
yeah, I don't know. I keep breaking my iPhone cover. I keep dropping that thing. I always buy a pack of those things. I even broke the back one too. So like the one that covers the lenses, because my ex-wife, she broke hers and she has her like big old like shard of glass sitting in there where the camera lens is. I'm like, yeah, I think it's broken. You got everything fixed. Whatever. But I bought the cover. I guess that cover for the front and cover for the back, and I've broken both many times. So it does come in handy because I'm always dropping my phone. I'm always dropping the thing. So, but Cars and Coffee, man, sounds like a great place to go and hang out and check it out. And they only go for a few hours in the morning, and they're usually at a designated area, and they usually always have it at the same designated area every single week, usually. And I'm assuming that if it rains, not as many people show up. I would think.
As many, but you got a really good what they call it, a rain or shine mentality.
Yeah, I would think. Well, that's the thing too. Is I guess if you get older and the kids are moved out, or whatever, you got your one-of-one Corvette or whatever it is, 1985 one-of-one Corvette, and you're like, it's your community, it's your group, it's your thing you do, it's a thing you do. Maybe you're not working as much, maybe you're retired, maybe you don't work at all, right? So this is the thing you look forward to. All week long, you're probably renting on the car, or you're probably doing whatever, and then you take it out on a Sunday drive, and you take it to your Cars and Coffee, and then you cruise around afterwards on a Sunday cruise. Now, the thing I was thinking about is that with Cars and Coffee, is it a like Southern California thing, or does this happen everywhere?
Oh no, yeah, this is definitely countrywide. Beyond that, even they have different forms of it in other countries. Japan's a big of like just having these like car events. Although a lot of times, I've never lived there, so I don't really know. But a lot of what gets publicized is actually a lot more night events that they'll do in like sort of parking garages and different things like that.
Oh, like Tokyo Drift, like movie. I remember they're in the parking garage doing like that kind of stuff.
I'm gonna butcher this, but like the Wangan style, like those kind of deals, like that more like night mentality is a lot more popular, I feel like, in places like Japan and things like that. But I mean, Europe, like I know they've adopted this mentality a lot, and no, I mean it's definitely pretty widespread. This concept of grabbing a cup of coffee, whatever it is, like getting together with car enthusiasts in your local area and just hanging out, talking about cars and meeting new people. Like it's become a pretty widespread deal. But
I would think that like if you live in a colder climate area, like we're in Christmas time right now, that I would think that they wouldn't be doing morning Cars and Coffee in like Minnesota or Wisconsin.
Well, I mean, yeah, it's interesting too, because that's a good point to bring up, is because I know a lot of people in those areas have that mentality of like they're usually storing their cars for winter.
Oh yeah, totally,
Their cool cars are going away for like 3, 4, 5 months or so, and so those you're probably right that in certain areas they really start to really have like a real snow season. They're probably not like they might have another car that they are okay with kind of taking it out in the snow and things like that, but Cars and Coffees might sort of die out around a certain time of season and like these more kind of weather oriented places.
It's probably a summertime thing for them. It's like a summer Cars and Coffee thing. I think when you live in a climate like that where it does get like lots of snow and it gets cold, half the year, that when you do have that summertime window, spring summertime window, you are maximizing every single day and making sure that every single day that it's warm and sunny, you're doing something. Cars and Coffee, driving around, washing the car, you're, going to wherever you guys go out there. I don't know, but you're probably showing things off and doing things like that. I would imagine that happens quite a bit in climates like that.
But when you live in SoCal, man, you don't really got to worry about that.
Well, you get the rain though. You get the rain to worry about.
You get the rain, but like I said, there's people that show up. The few weekends ago, we had like a pretty heavy amount of rain, and I put out one of my weekly things on Instagram, and 3 out of the 5 places that I posted that were having events told me that they were going to cancel them that week. Rancho Santa Fe was the one that didn't, as well as another one I can't remember. It might have been Escondido maybe, but the 3 out of the other 3 said that they're not going to have them because of the rain. But there were still people that were like, yeah, I'm going out to a Cars and Coffee, like, unless it's like literally just downpouring, like flooding, like I'll take a little bit of a
well, that's what it becomes more. It becomes more than just about the cars. I think it's same thing with a lot of different communities out there. Like this, it's more than just checking out cars. I think it's more about the community around the cars and the people you meet and the friends you meet. And it's your club. It's the same reason why people go to certain things, week after week. it's just to hang out with people they know and get to hang out and talk to people they know. It could be, it could be anything. It could be your local bar or your local, pool hall. Or pool hall still a thing? I don't even know.
Yeah, they got those around.
Yeah, so like things like that, or your whatever. That's probably why the
bowling league.
Bowling league. It's anything to bowling too. I mean, but of course you're like a team thing or golfing, for example. You do that if you know people you hang out with and stuff like that. It's about community, about bonding over something. The cars are like the bond, but I think the real reason why we go is to meet people and hang out with people we don't know and interact and kind of get out of our house.
Just get out of our own our own bubble and get out and get around some people that appreciate this maybe it's not the particular type of car that we're into or the particular brand, but people that appreciate this car culture that we have love for, that we enjoy. And I think you're completely spot on. And again, just that back to that one, video that I made a while back, and I might make a short form iteration of it at some point, but I had titled the video like winning cars and coffee, because I heard this term start come up, or this kind of phrase start popping up a lot over the last year or so. Is what wins cars and coffee? What do you bring to cars and coffee that wins the environment? Although, like I said, it's not a true show. You're not in it for a trophy, you're not winning anything. But there's certain times where somebody brings something where it just it sort of shuts down the show. Everybody ends up gravitating to that thing, whatever it is. And it doesn't always have to be the highest price supercar, hypercar. I've seen people bring some pretty obscure kind of cars that on the surface this is somebody that wasn't into cars probably would think you were crazy that all these people were gathering around this one car or whatever. But there's something about the car culture that knows that this car was special, and that is that one cars and coffee for that day, because it was what brought people over to it. But I think at the end of the day, winning in general is just it's just us coming together and having that sense of community with other people that are into cars and that enjoy them. Because it's cool when you drive on the freeway and you see a cool car drive by you, or you see maybe a couple of cool cars on a back road that you're driving through, and you pass by, oh, there's a cool car driving by or whatever. But there's something different when you come together in one spot and you have all of these unique cars and these unique people with their unique stories that you get to meet around in these type of environments. And I think that that's truly how we all win at Cars and Coffee, is just being a part of that, because we're all bringing sort of this unique story of our build or our car or whatever into this, this group event, this car show, this Cars and Coffee. And we're allowing other people to now be a part of that and enjoy that. And so, I might sound a little crazy about it, but I just enjoy the fact that we have these things that are free, that are, organized, that are family friendly, and that we can all just come together and enjoy something that we all have a passion for at the end of the day.
Fantastic, man. I think I love that. That's great, man. That's what it's all about, being community, having a community and being around the cars and seeing the cars. Now, on that note, are we allowed to take pictures of different people's cars, or how's that work?
Oh yeah, 100%.
Should I ask first though?
Honestly, anybody that gives you any slack for taking a picture of their car shouldn't be at a Cars and Coffee in my honest opinion.
Okay.
It's in my opinion. I'm again being quote unquote YouTuber, content creator.
Of course, you're thinking content.
When I go, a lot of times, I'm going because I know there's something cool that's going to be there. I do a lot less of just general Cars and Coffee content now, because for some reason with my content, I just haven't really seen a lot of just kind of viewership around that. People are a little bit more well, if I wanted to see what was there, I would have went. And so,
not necessarily though.
It's true. It's true. Yeah. You're right that there's some channels that purely just they go to an event and they'll film it and they get a lot of views around it. I don't know. I haven't really had a lot of success with that on my channel. And so a lot of times, if I'm filming at a Cars and Coffee, it's because of, say, a larger theme of the video that I'm trying to kind of articulate. but I still always like, I'm always filming something. Like, I have like the meta glasses where I'm like, taking videos.
Well, you're like filming and no one knows you're filming with those
yeah,
things.
I'm filming and, sometimes nobody knows it. Like, I'm pretty careful, like, to ask somebody if I'm filming them, like to make sure they're okay with it. Like their person.
Yeah, I think about well, the thing with the camera, I guess. So when I do go to one of these things, I'm just gonna bring my phone, I think, and probably just take pictures. Maybe some slight video for reels, that kind of stuff.
No harm, no foul, I'd say in that. Like, I mean, obviously, sometimes I'll ask somebody if they have like YouTube or Instagram. Like, I'd love to tag you in it.
Oh, of course, I think about that. Yeah.
But at the end of the day, like, taking pictures, like all of that, that's what they're there for. So I wouldn't be at all.
And they are there for that. They are there to take. They are there for their car to be taken pictures of.
They are, yeah. Like if, to be there to bring your car out, like if you were at all, like if somebody was at all expecting that somebody wouldn't do that, or that they would try to maybe like charge somebody to take a picture of their car, like they got the wrong mentality of the whole thing.
Make some money on that end, right now.
Yeah, like I'm like, go to a car show. Like that's where you belong. Like,
right. I just kind of wondering about that, because with cars, even though they claim they're one of one or whatever it could be, right, with their Corvette, and you take a picture of it. I mean, if you just Google whatever your Corvette in any color, I'm sure you'll find a gazillion pictures, right? Yeah. So it's not like your picture you're taking right now is the only picture that exists of a car like this. You know? So it's not like you're taking a picture of a unique waterfall or something like that. It's only in this one location kind of a deal. So it's when I take a picture of a car, I was kind of thinking this too. I used to take a lot of pictures when I used to go to the auto show, and they have some of these kind of cars at these auto shows. And I take pictures of all these kind of things because I was there and all. That's always fun. But like you're saying, with people not watching the video because it's of the Cars and Coffee, showing the cars that, maybe they don't care to see, or they've already seen it or something like that. Maybe that's what it is. I don't know. But like I said, figuring this stuff out on YouTube is a total mystery to me, man. It's a totally mystery to me. I'm totally like, almost like YouTube's fun and all, but I don't know, man. It's like
there's a big gray area that we're all trying to figure out with that whole deal. Like, and I hope too. Like, I don't want to at all like discourage you or anybody from maybe making content around that, because like there's certain events that some people just didn't know about, didn't make it to. You never really know. I guess at the end of the day, you never really know where sort of your viewership is gonna appreciate in certain content that they're going to appreciate. And so I don't want to discredit saying like, oh, nobody watches like that kind of stuff. Like I found that it didn't necessarily translate that well into viewership on my channel. But again, I've seen channels that succeed at that,
right?
And it really just depends at the end of the day, your execution, again, all the other things, your thumbnail, your description, your titles, all of that. But, I think it depends really on just what you enjoy making as content too. Like,
totally.
I somewhat get a little, like, to be totally transparent, I get a little stressed when I go to Cars and Coffees, like especially bigger ones, where like, I'm not capturing all of what like I saw. Like, I'll maybe start filming and I'll get a couple of like little highlights and things, but then I start to realize that like there's just so much here, and like if I was like to film all of this, like it would take me forever, and I'm not really going to enjoy like what's going on.
Well, you can do quick, like you can go in there, because I used to do this kind of stuff too. You just do a quick little like 3 seconds on every kind of thing, like a quick little pan here, pan there.
Well, I've seen some guys that just do like, say like a time lapse, like they'll just do a time lapse.
Oh, the walk around and like get it like stable cam kind of thing, or
they got a stable cam and they'll just time lapse it to, slow enough so you can see what's going on, but they're not necessarily focusing on like individual cars. And that's always a cool concept too, which I've tried to kind of implement too. Like I'll just do maybe a walkthrough and like time lapse it and things, but no, there's ways to do it for sure. And I think that there's definitely room for that type of content, because, we're not all making it out. When you have Cars and Coffees where you have 3 that are happening in one area at, on the same day at the same time, like there's going to be, situations where you don't see something crazy that, happen. Like
I just wish the Cars and Coffee was like a normal time, man, like 10.
Yeah.
Or something like that. Like, or even noon. We'll call it cars and lunch. Let's do that.
Cars and lunch. Like that. That's,
we'll meet at the In-N-Out Burger if we can find parking.
Hey man, there's niches there. That might be a thing. You can't be the only one. You can't be the only ones that appreciate just having a little bit more time to sleep in on the weekends, but still want to do something.
Well, not just that, but I sleep in for work too. So it's like my natural rhythm is not to be up, in the middle of the morning, I guess, or whatever kind of thing. But I'll try. I'll give it a shot. I will give this a try and head over to Cars and Coffee and see how it goes out. And Courage, I want to say thank you once again for stopping by and talking all about Cars and Coffee. You've been to a bunch of these. You are the Cars and Coffee king, man.
I don't think I deserve that crown, but I definitely been to my share of them. And so, like I said, hopefully it opens the door for some people that may be on the fence of checking them out. Just check them out. They're approachable. They're impromptu. They're really just for you to get involved a little bit more in the car culture. So hope that helps some folks out there.